All right, daily trading recap on this Thursday, the 14th of April, 2022. This is the last day of the trading week with Good Friday being tomorrow. Market recognizing that date because to Christ be the glory. I say this every single day, but sure enough, they recognize it at least one day out of the year. Today was very much so a day of FOMO testing. Not that I really even was preparing or anticipating testing that or going through that type of practice today, but it just very much so morphed into that. And very glad I ended up with a positive P&L, but of working well off of the session-wide future strategy today, getting long again around that 1800, 6 o'clock Eastern time frame as the session opens for futures, and then playing for that 10 points above there as the data says for right now, using that hit rate to continue to collect small enough and good enough chunks of points to balance out when it doesn't on the session-wide hit 10 points above the open there for the losses that we have to ensue from there like we saw on Monday. But continuing to use the 5 MES contracts for that, still not really where my account size want to be for me to take an ES contract size on that type of trade there, but just still hitting well, still continuing to push it and expand myself through that way. And just I can even feel it now, especially from Monday, of how much that change I felt after sustaining that loss on Monday versus the other multi-4-digit number losses that I've had to take doing this trading strategy beforehand. It's totally been a different mindset of how I looked at that one versus these days applying that same type of principle. So great change in that respect. And I'll go right into just of how today I did not take that 930 strategy, the ES strategy right at 930, looking for 2 points above the open, getting long immediately within that millisecond of market open, just to play within that morning volatility and morning craziness. Thought because it was just spiking pretty well and reclaiming to VWAP a little bit too good, and for the price action, especially right in that minute before 9:30, I said, I don't know, I ride, but I just don't feel confident in it happening today, so I took it off completely. And sure enough, happened again, precisely in that first minute of what exactly I was looking for. So I was like, oh shoot, okay, well, missed out on $100. And the entire rest of the screen time I was in front of the computer for the morning just became a hard tick-by-tick watch of the tick chart and the ADD and of the cues to see, okay, well, all I need is just 2 points, right? I can just get a quick little scalp and like appease myself that, I didn't really miss out on that 100 and I got it somewhere else, and kind of can end the day the same way if I hadn't not taken that 930 strategy. Just continually looking for points. But there was just that overarching thought today that restricted me from taking any of these trades I assure you, there was a myriad number of times when I would say, okay, let's get long here, and then look to see if it would have actually gotten me 2 points above. And sure enough, like for the 20 times that I did that between 9:30 and 11 o'clock, like 19 of them worked. It was just like of different little points here of, okay, all I need is to find a quick little top. Okay, scalping in there. Okay, maybe I can see what was the number there. Oh, shoot, I would have made another 2 points there. Or just so many different little areas and key points that I could have so easily scalped 2 points because that's all I was looking for. But that overarching thought just said, is this the type of trader that you want to be? And the thought that I wrote down in my journal here was, it's not so much about the $100 that I quote unquote lost today, that I wasn't a part of, that profit that I didn't get. It wasn't a loss. It was a profit that I wasn't a part of. So then to say, okay, what am I doing right now? And is that the type of trader that I want to be in the future? I don't want to be the type of trader that says, oh, shoot, well, okay, I knew this opportunity was going to be there, but I just didn't pull the trigger. And I did that like 20 times later following the trying to scalp the little 2 points thing. But out of that same mentality, is this the type of trader I want to be in the future with bigger size when it's not really possible to be taking such micro scalps like I'm doing? When I'm actually taking the big size, am I actually going to be trying to go for these little tiny moves like that? So just that reflection in itself made me totally self-aware of, you know what, I'm so right. Brent, you're so right. Sometimes you're so incredibly wrong, but today, Brent, you're so right. Of how I was just trying to look at it as, I need to get that $100 back. But in the bigger scheme of things, I would much rather not have that $100 profit today and instill in myself a better mentality to make buttloads, to not lose buttloads in the future. I saved myself $100 today instead of 10 grand, who knows potentially what I would be doing in the future if I would try to do that same type of mentality with bigger size or just continue to keep doing it in the future. It's not a viable strategy. And that's how I got myself in the one hole with a 1.6K loss day. I think I'm remembering that correctly. Of just trying to continue, like the thought that always kept coming in my head on that day was, if you want to get out of the hole, put down the shovel. But yet I just still kept trying to scalp my way out with these little ES contracts that was way too big a size for what I was trying to do. Just no risk reward, no real imaginable or true viable substantial base patterns or trades that I was taking. And that's the same thing with this one, especially on an index that just has so many different variables and so many things going after it. There are times that I'm going to look out, and for the 19 out of 20 times that I was thinking of getting an entry, of saying, okay, I could get an entry here. Oh, shoot, that would have been my profit target. That was another trade there that I missed. The same thing that I did precisely with that 930 strategy that it just wasn't a part of. Today was just a huge, huge lesson on dealing with FOMO, of just absolutely foaming at the mouth, being ready to push that button, just take a little tiny scalp. And I could so feel myself, the more of these that were adding up, just wanting to push that button even harder, just so the pain of the FOMO could go away. Even if I took a loss, that just so then it could subside and say, okay, well, I'm definitely then done for the day, and now I don't have to be feeling this emotion anymore. But continuing to live in it and be in that emotion of, I was fully ready and wanting to take a trade in some of these areas of identifying a bottom here at this point, or even taking a bottom here in this candle. That was a 2-point scalp there that I could take in both of these that I was looking at, just for example, of the many that I was trying to do in this little time frame. But of continuing to add those up again and again and again, it was just this great lesson in, just because it's more painful to be holding, the market doesn't care. That doesn't make it a good trade at this point. I'm totally basing it off emotions, and I'm not actually basing it off the fact of, I'm here to make money, not to just appease my FOMO-seeking brain. So above all else, above the money gained today, above the money not gained today, of the equity trades that I didn't take today, maybe it shifted my focus away a little bit too much to SPY versus what I should have been keying in on VERU or ATER, or the other tickers that way. But I did take a few paper trades on those that I'll get into in a little bit here. But I gotta say, just a great overall lesson in that for me, of something I wasn't planning on doing, but just of a tester for who do I want to be in the future. And I gotta say, A+ for execution on how I handled that, of just totally wanting to push the button and be a part of these so many times over and over and over again. And how I know in the past too, and just with other things in my life as well, of just because it hurts or because you've done it so many more times doesn't justify you eventually caving to it or eventually falling to it. Just because they're saying, oh, well, I've fought that FOMO for so long throughout this whole morning. Okay, well, this one is going to appease that. I can finally end the pain, I guess is the phrase to use there, with this trade. And then sure enough, that becomes just a loser trade, stupid thing that would have got you in the same place that if you did it on the first time. So it's just a total mental shift for me, and I'm so thankful for today and that opportunity to practice that I didn't really expect or try to emphasize going into today. So very thankful in that regard. And even CRXT, getting short, I'll go ahead and start with that one. That same type of thing of watching this one for the breakout move. This is the first green day play. Was initially looking for this one as a dip and ripper for the lower float that it had. 1.1 million float here I'm showing. They had 5% short of the float. I forget the specific newscast, whatever it was, but looking for that specific dip and rip pattern. If it was going to sell or tank off, hey, we can maybe find a little bit of a basing there and just take it for that 10-cent move or 15-cent move. Just look for something like that to have a nice risk reward opportunity off. But sure enough, it just spiked out of the open, pulled back to VWAP, had a little bounce, and then immediately started to reclaim once again and test that level once more. And just everything in me is saying, okay, this one it's super low float. It's the end of the week. It's an options expiration day. It's kind of the craziness volatility type of day. This thing could have a nice continuation even from this point. How many times, and especially reviewing a lot of my daily trading recaps, how many times do I just continue to buy the top like that? That same thought that I was having of, okay, this one is breaking out, but it could still have far more room above it. And how many times do they turn into charts like this? So fighting that FOMO of, even though I would have been getting in around 161 to be playing for that actual breakout that would have got me, maybe I could have gotten a sell-off at 1.7. But sure enough, that trade wasn't there. There's the validity of it. In me not taking that trade, now I'm just totally free and open to understanding, okay, wow, I see that it had just a little tiny perk above that breakout and sold off. That's a shorting point. That's not a buying point. Of how many times have Grittani talked about that, of just, or even I'm thinking of Roland Wolf, of how he mentioned of, a lot of the times that he was buying what Tim Grittani was short selling, and that mental change that has to come of identifying these different key variables that changes your perspective of how you look at it because of what it actually is, not just what you want it to be. KLDO, I think, was a great example on it that I didn't take, but just saw that, hey, we're putting in some nice volume. We're cutting in a decent percentage moves again after that crazy little spike yesterday, right out of the gate in that morning session. But the volume profile on scans was showing 45 was kind of the top level of all of the resistance. And sure enough, that's where it immediately spikes just above, just barely perks above there to intrigue or entrance the newbies or skeptics. Skeptics isn't the right word, but of just the breakout seekers looking to play for an advantage continuation beyond. And sure enough, that's just the hook in the water. That is the absolute trap that just ends up pulling it and yanking it back down below VWAP, back to new low day, all the way down just above 36 there for a beautiful little short trade. So just radically changing my perspective on these ones of trying to buy above the breakout, and just I make that as a basic example of buying above the breakout, but of just revolutionizing how I look at these charts and how emotions of humans are played out in these green and red candles there. I think that is the biggest point. ATER, again, taking more stabs at it on the paper side short. Starting in at what I thought was a little morning perk at 5.7 there with a little short as it's holding VWAP. Okay, volume's coming in. Okay, shoot, whatever. It's paper. These are totally just speculative, educational. This one probably's got far more room to run. This really wasn't based on any substance or just thinking that I was going to be right, but just in the fact of I want to be doing more shorting. And I want to know, okay, why was it a bad idea to short here at this little top? Even though that next candle did look very nice and start pulling off after that little high. Why was it a bad idea to short in this candle? As it did have a new high, a volume candle high, and maybe start to roll over as it broke above 5.9 there. Why was it a bad idea to short here? And why was it a bad idea overall just to cover immediately into that one? And also, again, to short here at this candle. So just putting myself, I mentioned it yesterday, but emphasizing again of putting myself in the ringer to then expose myself of, okay, not only is this why it's a bad idea to short here, but these are the reasons why these things run this way, and seeing those patterns play out to then add to my perspective on the long side. So yeah, just continuing to expose myself to that and force myself through the grinder to expose all the loopholes and just widen my horizons of how I view these things, when normally I just wouldn't really even take a stab at this one because I'd be uncomfortable shorting it. It's not really one of my pattern playbook trades, but of saying, oh wow, this could be one of my pattern playbook trades, of identifying key little characteristics of saying, man, backside trades similar to this move of after it gets pretty spiky, selling off, even taking a trade anywhere around here, calling this a little lower high, shorting into there, taking this trade from 6.4 down to 6.1, even though it's 30 cents, 5% little trade on that. I mean, it's beautiful, repeatable little trades selling into strength and happening like in the time frame that I do like, of immediately after I get my entry, and not so much fighting against the upward trend or still trying to short into front side or just different characteristics like that one. So it's, yeah, these ones I don't view as who I am as a trader. I don't view any trade I make as who I am as a person or a trader. It's just it's a guess. Everything is a guess. I don't know what's going to happen, but this is an educated guess based on these factors. And I'm continuing, especially on the paper side, taking away that financial risk, exposing myself to say, how can I make more educated guesses that way? VERU, I also got to talk about just quick of just the craziness that was there. Got the nice recording of the level 2 and time and sales on the day there. Chris was pretty much all in on this one and got on the penny, stopped out, wicked out before a beautiful little, call it a dip and rip spike on a multi-day continuation there. Beautiful little trade opportunity. That was just missed on that one. And sure enough, it started rolling over crazy, break to new low, halts to the downside, finds a little bit of consolidation, still very wicky candles after that move, but eventually starts to reclaim the VWAP, and then we get that initial shorts, not the initial, but the short squeeze to break it to that new high of day. Bryce Toohey on the live stream, he got some shares there to sell off in, and Tim Sykes was just yelling like hell at him for not taking off any into this 17.5 spike here after the on-halt, at least just a little bit. I know he was maybe saying that he didn't have the full position size that he normally wanted, but I think I've talked about that a little bit too, of the Grittani method, I want to call it, or do you just, maybe he even learned that from Sykes as well, and wherever he learned that, of taking the money when you can, not when you have to, of paying yourself along the way, that you don't have to just force 100% of your position size to whatever you're trying to get as your max goal. But at the same time, you know, that's a lot of profit that you can be eating away or losing when I've done it, of slowly taking myself out of a trade when, gosh, you know what, in reality, I could have very easily held a lot more of those shares until later of the trade. There were certainly a lot of factors that were still going my way that didn't necessarily prompt me to take that many shares off when I was doing it. I just wanted to because I was paying myself along the way. So trading the balance with that in everything of different type of trades and strategies offer different opportunities that way of paying yourself along the way, and some others call for different methods of doing that. But I think that's just it is a fine line in walking that well of going back to the end of the day of, is it about appeasing what you want to feel, or is it about making the most amount of money? And how can we do that with this specific chart and this specific trade? And what does the data say? And what does this chart actually suggest that you can do with that? So it all just boils down to that one basic fact that price is king, and P&L at the end of the day is what we're all going for. And that's going to speak the most amount of volume than the volume itself is going to speak in regards to that. So that was all I had on the day. Of course, we're coming in before the close here. Got some other stuff going on later today. But just sincerely thankful for it. To walk away with a green day is always beautiful. To walk away with any amount of money coming out of the market is always a great sentiment, and that's what we're after. That's what I'm chasing, whether it's $1 or $250. Or $250,000. It is just always a blessing, and I'm so extremely thankful. Just continue to have the greatest occupation in the world, to just continue to take more risks for how young I am, for the opportunities that I know if I should fail to absolute rock bottom, I still got time. I can still pick myself back up and continue to attack it. The reward on the other side is just so great and few and far between. That doesn't come from any other safe or risk-averse type of job or occupation or way of life. And that way, so it's with everything I'm doing, I'm trying to pursue this as hard as I can, and extremely, extremely thankful for it. And I thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.